everybody. My name's Sheila, and if you're not already aware of who I am, well, that's who I am, and you know who I am now. Welcome to the craft along, where today we're going to be doing a nice little Christmas card. We've got a couple of little techniques on here that you might not have tried before. So we're going to be making this card from the beautiful retro collection, which we launched a few weeks ago, and I'm sure a lot of you have already got it. If you haven't, you can still get some of the products from that collection. We have put a list and a picture on the screen, so you will be able to see what we've used. Obviously, we have used the retro Christmas paper pad, the 12 by 12. We've also used the Ho 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 embossing folder and the Ho 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 Santa cutting die set. We've added some linen cardstock and some white textured cardstock. If you haven't got the linen or white textured cardstock, it doesn't matter, you can still do this with a plain cardstock, but you might get a different effect when it comes to the embossing side of things, but we can explain that as we go along. And then you just need your extra little bit, so your die cutting machine. Obviously I'm using the Gemini 2, and I'm probably going to use the Mini as well, just for the smaller dies. Guillotine, scissors, tacky glue, foam pads, and I've added some ribbon and some little bells and a pom-pom. So I think if you're like I am, a crafter that's got so much in your stash, you'll be able to find something. I'm only using the pom-pom to put on the Santa hat, just as something a little bit different, but you do have a die as well in the collection, which I'll show you, which you can cut to use on the Santa hat. So what we're going to do, we're going to start off first of all by trimming the card down. Now, the idea behind the size of the card is because it's a little bit of an unusual size. I wanted to create with the embossing folder like a doubled up effect, if you like. So because the embossing folder is 6 by 4, I wanted to be able to kind of elongate it so it actually goes like wider, if you like, so it gives us a bigger area which we can concentrate on, and it just makes it look a little bit different. Obviously this is not an embossing folder that you can tile by tile. I mean, it's got a repeated pattern so that you can cut extra bits and push them up together, a bit like when you're wallpapering, you know, you do a section of wallpaper and then you match up the flowers, etc. We can't actually tile it, but there is a way of embossing it, and by adding a little piece of ribbon, you'll be able to hide the join underneath. It doesn't mean you have to use ribbon. You could use a strip of paper, you could make a banner, you could do whatever you want to, but this was just to give you the idea of being able to make that embossing folder look like it's bigger than what it actually is. Now, the other thing as well that you could do with this is you could do it the other way. So if you take an A4 sheet of paper, and I'll just grab this one that I did earlier because I think it would work with this as well. So this is an A4 sheet of paper which I've folded, sorry, cardstock, which I've folded down the side here. Now, really, with the embossing folder, you could do the same kind of thing. I'm going to grab one that I've already got done here. Because it's 6 by 4, you can trim the edges off. I think what you could do if you wanted to, we've extended it widthways, but you could extend it lengthways. So you'd probably have to cut your card down a little bit, but you could do it in exactly the same way by adding either a border or a piece of ribbon. So eventually you have a full length of the embossed panel. So again, do bear that in mind. You might want to do that. You might just try that, do some tall thin cards for a change. You could do it on a DL. So where a DL comes to about 8 inches like that. Again, you could do the same. So you could be joining it maybe at the bottom here with a ribbon. So just bear that in mind. There's nothing too difficult about it. All we're doing is cutting one piece down smaller than the other. So let's get on and show you how we created this. So I've got an 8 by 8 card blank here, which I'm going to cut down. If you've got cardstock, you can actually just fold and, you know, make your own size card. This card I've used here is, and I'm going to show you on here, is 7. It's just a fraction over 7 inches. Now, this was where I couldn't decide. I started with a 7 by 7, then I went to a 6.5, and then I went to about 6 1/4. And that was mainly because the embossing folder is 6 by 4. So if I allow 6 by 4 cardstock here, I need to add a little bit on the end so that we can create that border, because we've got some yellow, we've got some pattern paper, and then we've got the white edge. So let me cut this down and we'll explain as we go exactly how you can do it. So I'm going to bring in my guillotine. In fact, I'm going to bring in the bigger guillotine, I think, just because that will give me a wider range to cut. So let's grab the bigger one. So there we go. So we bring in the big guillotine and we will do the extension here. If I can just slide that out there and then lift that up, pop the leg down. I do like a guillotine, I must admit. So what we're going to do is trim this down to 7. And I'm doing it on like a landscape. If you wanted to do the fold at the top, you just turn it around and do exactly the same, trim it to 7, either way, whether you've got the fold at the side or the fold at the top. So we're going to do this then to 7. I want my fold at the side in this instance. So let's chop that down to 7. I think this is a nice thing about a craft along as well, because if we've given you the list and the picture beforehand, you can actually be ready to join in and try and do this as I'm doing it, or you might want to just get all your bits out and figure out, oh yeah, that's how I do it. So what we're going to do, I'm going to cut it to 6 1/4, and what we'll do, we'll bring that in, we'll just double check that. So it's just, it's 6 1/4, thereabouts. And we can always trim a little bit more off, but we can't stick it back on. So we'll pop that out of the way over there for now. And then, so here's my card blank now, so you can see how I've got that. It's more or less the same size. And then what we're going to do is we're going to emboss some of the red cardstock here. So this is from the linen cardstock that comes with the retro collection, which is, I'll bring that in and show you, because you can't always tell until you've got it in front of you if you've bought it, and especially if you're one of those customers that's bought it and not actually got it out of the box yet or put it in a drawer. So this is what you're looking at, and we're using the red and we're going to use some of the yellow as well, but you have got the other 4 colours to use as well. So if you want to do it different colour, then you can. All right, so because the folder measures 6 by 4 inches, we can get 2 out of there, which is perfect. So we just need to slice across the cardstock here. So as long as we've got it to 6 inches or more, we can go a little bit more if you want to be generous, but we will be trimming it down. I know that when Debbie does her cards, she likes to trim it slightly less so she doesn't get the edge of the folder on, but in this case I'm just going to do it 6 by 4. In fact, I might do it a little bit bigger because we can. Oh, we do it 4, but we'll do 6 by 4. Let's do 6 by 4. You can do it a little bit wide if you want to, but the folder is only that size, so it doesn't matter. And then we'll trim this as well. So we'll have 2 pieces. Let me turn that round because we've got a little white edge on there. So as long as we've got 2 bits, and remember, one of these is going to be cut down anyway, because we're going to join them together, and they're not going to be full width. If they were full width, they would be like that. So that would go on an 8 by 8 inch card, I think. Well, maybe you might have to trim a little bit off, but we'll check it again once we've embossed it, because I think if we emboss it, we're going to trim a bit off anyway. So you might get the 2 pieces on an 8 by 8 card, which would be great as well. So, okay, so we're going to pop this through the Gemini. So let's just bring in the folder here. So we've got that one at the bottom, and then we've got this one here. Now I must just show you as well, if you want the embossed bit to be pushed out, so if you want the words to be pushed out, what you need to do is have you can feel here, this is indented. You can see here that my nail's gone in there. On this side, you can see it's raised. So what we're wanting to do is to push the raised bit up into the card, so that when we take the card out, we've got the raised bit on the front. We are going to sand that, so that's what we need to do. If you're not sure, usually with the Crafter's Companion folder, if you want that raised bit, make sure the logo is on the underneath. if you're using just a plain cardstock, it doesn't matter because you can flip it over. You can use which side you want. But because we're on textured, I want the textured side to be on the top, as you can see there. So that's why I'm just explaining that in that way. Okay, so now we can pop this through. There we go. So that's why we need to do it. If with a 3D embossing folder, you just do the 2 white plates. But when you're doing it with the with the 3D, if you're doing it with 2D, you'd need the 2 white plates. We're doing a 3D, so we need to have the magnetic sheet and the clear plastic one. There you go. Look how amazing that is. And we've not even sanded that one yet. So now we're going to do our other piece as well. And then once we've done that one, then we can sand it. And then we'll trim it to whatever size we want it to be, because that way then one will stay full size and one will be trimmed. Now, as I said before, they're not going to marry up. The letters and the words are not going to match together. So what we're going to do is we're going to trim them down, and you'll see how we do it. So what I want to do first is just sand these lightly, and then we'll trim them. If you sand them on top like this, you will get the white coming through, because the textured card that comes within the retro collection has a white core. So you can sand this back. If you've not got a sanding block, you can use a piece of sandpaper, you can use a little emery board that you would do your nails with, anything like that, just to get that white coming through there. So we'll just do that there, and you can do it a little bit more, a little bit harder, you can do it a little bit lighter. It depends on the effect you want. You might actually just like it like this, where there's a little bit poking through, which is very subtle and it's quite nice. But the reason I wanted to bring more white through is because we've got a white card blank and we're going to leave a little edge around it. So that's why we wanted it to be like that. Okay, so a little bit more sanding on there. And then we'll trim these down a little bit. So I found the easiest way to do this is to trim the one that we're definitely going to use first of all. So if I bring my trimmer in now, put that card there, we don't need that for a minute. So let's trim this right up to the edge. So I'm going to go as far as I can, like that. And then along the bottom, because the 6x4 embossing folder, that's the size it is. But the embossed area is a little bit less, obviously, because it has to allow for the edge. So what we can do is just trim a bit off there, and that will give us our embossed panel. If you want to trim more off, you can, but remember, we're going to put a ribbon on, so if you've got a little bit extra here, it doesn't matter. That's totally fine, and we will make sure that it all sits right before we stick it down. So the next thing to do now, if I bring in the original card, and you can see how this works. So what I've done is I've kept this one to the right size, and I've used it at the right side of the card, and then what I've done is I've actually looked at where that would marry up best, and there wasn't really a good way, to be honest. I tried it in a few different ways, and I kept moving it around thinking, oh, this is not going to work, is it? But it actually did. I think to put it like that, and if I bring in the card, because I've not glued the ribbon, you can actually see where it joins. Let's go that side. So you can see there, that's where it joins up. So we've got like that O there, and then we've got the little O next to it. So on there, that's kind of a good clue. So we've got, if I just take a bit more off here and get a little bit more up to the edge, then you'll be able to see that. That's a bit better. So this is the O here that we could see. And it was like that. So we've not taken too much off. So that's how that one is. And then what we need to then do is chop down here. So we're taking off this side, and then that will just sit on top of there. So let's just do that. Let's just trim down there. And once you've seen how I've done it, and you can see it on the video, if you do your two panels first as you're watching the video, you'll be able to pause it or stop it, and you'll be able to see exactly where I've chopped it. So what I'm going to do is just chop down this end here. So I'm going to cut it to be, basically we're just going, it's going to be about 3 1/4, just down there, down that side. So now if I bring this in, we can see that that will marry up like that. And then when I've put it together, I'll give you the measurements here. So I need to cut a little bit more off the bottom. And the best way to do that is to just measure that and pop a little pencil mark, just so that you get it there. So if you cut to the side, this side, the left side of the pencil mark, and then we can put them together and we can see how that then looks. And this is the trickiest bit really of the card. So we're going to bring that right up here. Now if you're really keen and quite particular, if you want to cut that piece off, then you can do and join them up together. That's what I did on the original. But if not, you can see that it still works like that. So it's not a brilliant match, but once you bring your ribbon in, it goes like that. And you don't see it, you don't see it. And I figured for me, in my mind, it was better that I had the bigger piece at this side. Just because I think you open the card from that side, that just sat better further this way than it did here. But you've got the option, you can do that. The technique really was just to show you how to get this doubled up. Okay, so what we need to do now, we need to chop some of the 12 by 12 paper down. Now, in your 12 by 12 paper pad, you've got double-sided papers. So originally, I was going to go with this one because it had the, turn it the right way, Sheila, it had the pink, and it had the green, and the yellow, and the white. But what I wanted to do, I wanted to make it a little bit, I thought it was a shame to hide that, all that pattern. So we've gone with this side. So all we need to do is cut a piece of cardstock that will fit here. So we'll chop this on the guillotine, and I'm leaving a little edge, little white edge all the way around. But I'm not going to stick anything down until we're happy that everything fits and looks right. So let's do a little line there, and we do a little line here. I'm just going to move that just a fraction up. So a little line here. So we've got a nice white edge around there. And then what we'll do a cut. Now you can do this on your paper trimmer, or you can do it on a guillotine. As you know, I like a guillotine. So we're going to look for those pencil marks now. So we've got one along here. So I'm going to cut that one there. And it measures, it actually measures, it's almost 7, probably about 6 7/8, because obviously the card is 7 inches, isn't it? So we don't need that piece, so we can use that on another project. And then we're going to turn this round and find the pencil mark, which I think is here. I think it's, my eyes are terrible. I think it might be there. That's it. I'll soon tell in a minute when I get it up to there. Yeah, so that measures. So the card was 6 1/4, wasn't it? So we need it to be there. I'm just going to bring that in. I just want to double check with my card blank before I chop, because once you've chopped, as we say, there's no going back once we've chopped. So yeah, I'm happy with that. It's better to leave too much on, and then you can go back in. So I think I've left a little bit extra on here, just to be on the safe side. That's perfect. So happy with that. Yeah. So we've got our nice little patterned background there, and it's not too bad if we cover some of that up. So what we want to do next is bring in some of the yellow. So I thought, well, let's go proper retro. Let's do the oranges, the reds, and the yellows. Now, on my card here, let's pop this. No, I'll keep it here, then you can see it, because if I go up there, you can't see it. What we need to do next is we can just sit that there for a minute. So when we put the ribbon round. We're not going to put the ribbon round the orange piece, we're going to put the ribbon round this piece that's got the embossed bit on. So that will come out from behind so it's nice and neat. So what we need to do now is we need to cut a piece to go on top of the orange. Now this was where I had to stop and just do measurements and check things, because I needed to see how much I needed to cut off to get it lined up. So let's see if we go to there. Sometimes it's a by eye job, isn't it? It is definitely a by eye job. I mean, that's how we get through life, isn't it? By seeing everything, figuring out what we need to do, which way we need to go. So we can see now, if I pop a pencil line here, and I'd much rather do this than measure really down to the, you know, the exact size, because for me, I think sometimes guillotines and trimmers and mats can just sometimes have the tiniest discrepancy. It's very unusual, but they can. I know that I have mats at home that measure slightly different, but they're quite old. It's quite an old mat that's on my table that I use, and I think I've had a rubber mat on my table as well. I think sometimes they can just get a little bit, you know, old, and so I do like to do things by eye and then trim afterwards. Now we're going to have to bring the guillotine back in a minute, but we can see now, because I know that looks okay on my card. So I can bring this in now and have a look at how that will be. And if I need to have a bigger edge on there, then I will. And if that then means I need to alter my embossed pieces, then I can still do that. But as long as that base piece sits happily on my card and I'm happy with the look of it, then I'm happy to just, you know, adjust this as and when, really, because it just makes it easier. And then this allows you as well to actually trim off the extra bits so the joins go together like they would if you were wallpapering. So you can see if I bring my original one in, we've got a slightly smaller border here, but this always happens when you're putting one together, because you're putting it together and you're creating it, trying to get it all in place, then you go, okay, I'm not sure if I cut it to that measurement, will it fit? Because I'm joining the embossing folders together, will it work? So again, that's why I am doing it this way and not sticking it down just yet, because I want to make sure that I've got the same size borders all round. And as long as I know that orange one, that orange piece that's going to go on there and give me that symmetrical edge thereabout, then I know I better turn that the right way so it opens that way, because the fold is there. Otherwise we'll be on an upside down card, won't we? Yeah. So let's do that. So let me now, I'm going to take this embossing folder off here, and I'm going to just look at where my edges are, and then you can see where I'm going to mark it. So I'm just going to lift that up a bit. And I'm sorry if I'm talking too much about everything on here, but I want to give you more information rather than less, because then that helps you, especially if you're a beginner. I think it might be the first craft along you've watched and think, oh my goodness, what are they doing? But don't forget, if you've not got this kit, or your budget doesn't stretch to this kit at the minute, you can do this layout and you can extend any of your existing embossing folders. And that's the beauty of a craft along, because we're not actually selling the things to you on the show. We're showing you and trying to give you ideas of how to make something. There we go. So now then what we can do, we bring in the base piece again, like this, pop this on top, check that we're happy with the border on there. So the border this time is a little bit thicker on here, but I'm happy with that. And then I can bring in the embossing folder, and that's the smaller piece, and then we have the bigger piece here. And now what we can do is we can go, okay, I want to cut that down a bit. So what I'm going to do is just bring that down a little bit, like that, and I'm just going to do a little mark there, but I'm going to allow like 1 millimetre so that I don't cut too much off. I'd rather go 1 millimetre that way than that way, where the seam is, because we need to make sure that we can trim a little bit more off. So I'm playing safe, really. on that one. And then you'll probably see now, as I chop down here, on the original one, I'm going to bring it back in again to show you, on the original one, we could see that chunky, smaller hole there and that. Now at the minute, I've got the hole there, but I've got the extra bit. So if I chop down here, it'll be slightly different to this. I've put a pencil mark there, but I'm going to go, I think I'm still going to go a little bit that further that way. Because if I measure this as well, I think I've got a little bit extra on this end there. So if we, it is going to be different every time, and it's going to, you're going to have to just do a little bit of kind of jiggery-pokery with it, just to get it lined up, because obviously you're doing it slightly different to me, but it should still work. So let's chop a little bit of that off now, where I'm still going to go to the right side of the pencil mark, because then if I've still got too much, I can trim off. If I go too much, take too much off, it won't go back on, and then all your card is wasted and all your effort you just put in. So let's see if that goes on our yellow bit now. I'll bring cutter back in if we need it. So let's pop that onto there, that onto there, and this onto here. So we can see that's not too bad at all, that one now. That's pretty good. And you can see even from above there, it's not like badly mismatched, but you definitely need to put something over there, because you're always going to get someone who will see it and go, oh, there's some holes missing, or it doesn't quite gel. But I'm happy with that now. So I'm going to stick those on now. I'm happy to do that, and then what we'll do is bring the ribbon around there before we attach it to the paper. And then after that, we just need to cut some of our little bits out for our die, for our Santa's face on there. I've cut a couple of little bits, but we need to cut some more, because obviously I need to show you how to do that. Just take that bit of dry glue off the top. We've got the fan on in here, and it's very hot outside, so the fight between the fan and the hot air is a running battle, and that has all sorts of effects on your glue and your tape. So, okay, so we'll pop that onto there like that. Now, I'm not going to press it down like really hard. As with tacky glue, you've got a little bit of time, as you have with your Collel glue. I am a tacky glue lover, so I do like to, put things on with tacky glue, but then obviously we can, so we need to slide that up a little bit, so let's just grab this now, pull this up. Yeah, definitely have a little bit of time to manoeuvre things if you're using a wet glue. So, and you can see I've not pressed it down, which is why I've been able to lift it back up again. Let's just get that little bit of glue off there. It's not going to show under the ribbon. Okay, so it looked like it fitted before, but now I think I need to maybe I might just have to have it slightly overlapping at the bottom. That's all right. What we have to remember as well is that when we put embossing folders, like our card into an embossing folder, it stretches it. So you have to bear that in mind as well. So sometimes it might feel like when it comes out of the embossing folder, it's actually bigger than it was when it went in. But that's pretty straight now. I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do now is bring in the ribbon. So we tie the ribbon around here. You'll just get a length of ribbon. And I know you'll all have ribbon, all kinds of ribbon, as I have. So I thought, right, let's go with some yellow ribbon. I don't often use yellow ribbon. So I thought, okay, let's do some yellow, because it goes with the retro feel, because obviously, as we said before, yellows and oranges, lime greens, reds, browns were the thing back in the 70s and 60s and 70s, so this works really well. Now, if you don't want to use all that ribbon, you don't need to, and I'm just not worried at this stage. I've got meters of it, and I'll probably keep the extra bits that I trim off, so don't worry. I know a lot of people go, oh my goodness, look at all that ribbon, she's wasted, but believe you me, I will keep it, and it'll go in the top of a tag or something like that. So you might want to put some wool around it. You might have some really nice trim that will go down there. You might not want a bow So have a look in your stash at what you've got. You might have something from a previous Crafter's Companion collection that you could use, because I know there's been ribbons in collections and things. So, okay, so now we've got our bow on there. So you can alter that at the minute because we've not glued it. If you want to pull that, you might not want to have a sentiment on. You can actually still pull your ribbon around. You can untie it, but you can slide it if you want it further that way or a bit further, whichever way you want it to be. So I'm going to pull that like that. And then this is what I did next. So I put this on first. So let's pop this on here. If you want to add some ink to the edge of your papers, you can do that. I'm not going to do it in this instance. Even though I like doing that, I was trying to think back to when I was born. Well, not actually when I was born, but as I got to like 4, 5, 6 years old, which was in the very early 70s. So we had cards with papers and colours and patterns like this, obviously, which is where the retro theme comes from on this collection. And I remember, you know, we didn't have like inks and stuff then, you know, that we would edge cards with. Cards just came as they were, to be honest. So you didn't have anything special, really. It was usually printed. Occasionally you'd get a badge on there, or you might get a little bit of like textured fur almost on some. I know I've got one at home, I think, on some of the cards where you got like I think I've got one with a donkey on. And I feel like the donkey had either a tuft on his head or a bit of flock on his chest. So you could feel it, yeah, which was quite nice. I did like that effect on a card. And that's why I put a pom-pom on my Santa's hat as opposed to doing the pom-pom that's in the die set. But you can do that. There is a pom-pom die, so you don't have to worry about that. And you could use the pom-pom die as well as snowballs. So if you wanted to do that, you could cut some pom-poms and use them as snowballs on the card. And then what I've done, because I've got some bells here that I've had in my stash for a while, and I know crafters always have bells as well. So what I did was, because they're quite chunky bells, I've not even tied them on. It seemed like they wanted to stick on the ribbon. Now, whether it's because it's organza or not, I don't know. But they did seem to want to stick. So let's pull that one through. I might just push that with my poker tool. Like that. So I can just grab hold of the end. You can always thread it through the needle. If you've got a large-eyed needle, that will work. And so I'm just gonna, they're quite snug on there, so I'm happy for those to just kind of dangle there like that. If you wanted to, you could put a knot in or a bit of glue, but I'm just gonna trim that off. That's what I did with the original one. So, but you could do that at a later stage. You could actually add a little bit of tacky glue. It will dry clear and it will hold them. Okay, so let's just pop that there. If you were obviously giving it to, you know, a family that's got children or something, I would be tying them on and probably gluing them as well. So you can see now how we've created that base, and you would never think that was originally 6x4 embossing folder. It looks like it was a big embossing folder. So again, it's quite nice to do something like that. And you can sometimes just do an embossing folder background and a little sentiment. You don't have to add like lots of things like I'm doing here. You put some gems on. So you can see now that we've got that stuck in place. I'm just going to jiggle that a little bit so that it kind of sits a bit more straight there. So we've got a bit more orange showing this time in comparison to the original one, but it doesn't matter, the objective is still the same. So what we need to do now is we need to get the Ho 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 Santa die set, which is here under all my trashy bits that I've been chopping. I've already cut a couple of elements. So what we're going to do is show you how to put the Santa face together in case you've not done that. So I want to cut a white circle. And this die is great because you can use it for all kinds of things. You know, if you've not got nesting dies, or, you know, you want to just have a circle for something. It's a really nice one because it's got that zigzag edge, so it means it's a little bit different to what we're used to using. So if I get that to the edge, I'll pop a bit of tape on there, and then we should be able to get this through the mini machine. So I'll pop that on the top corner there and trim off that bit, and then we can make sure we do get it through there. So let's bring in the little mini machine. Let's pop those up there and find my little next to me. Thank you for that. Okay, so that will just fit nicely in there. So we'll pop that through, and that will give us a look at that. It was made for the job, wasn't it? We'll bring it back as well. Saves me reaching over because I've got short arms. So, okay, so now we've got our little, I love that. I love the shape of that. And I've done it in white, so it still brings in the white that we've sanded back here, and also the white around the edge of the card. I thought, oh, does it work or not? Does it? But I think it does work quite nicely. So now then, in our die set here, if you've got this set, you'll have another circular die there. I think ours has gone for a little walk, so I grabbed one of my nesting dies and just cut a circle. It's almost the same size, you know, and we're going to fit the Santa head on there anyway. So do you know what? I looked at that and thought this is like a fried egg, and Jamie has just said in my ear that looks like a fried egg, and I think he's absolutely right. It does look like a fried egg. So you could make it as a fried egg if you wanted to. I mean, you could do it all in yellow, or yellow and orange. It would be great sunshine, wouldn't it? It would make a great sunshine. So I think that'd be, it reminds me, does it remind me of, am I right here, Jamie, you'll know this. Is it like the sunshine on the Teletubbies that used to come up from behind the hills with the face in it? It does. It just reminded me when I did it earlier on. I thought fried egg, and I thought the sunshine, the baby sunshine from the Teletubbies. It's just like that. Okay, so next thing we need to do, we need to grab a few little colours because we want to do the Santa face. Now then, the Santa face, each time you add a little bit, it gets a bit smaller. So we have got some quite small dies. So it's wise to keep them either on your sheets or on a magnetic sheet if that's how you store your dies. And I'm going with like a little, now this is not from the, it's a little piece of textured cardstock from one of our pads, I think. I think it might be it's either 12 by 12 or an 8 by 8, but I just liked the colour for the skin. So what I'm going to do as well, I'm going to pop on there the little nose as well. So as you can see, it's great because it's already got the ears included, so you don't have to then go, oh, I've got to cut the ears and stick those on. So the ears are already on there. And I think with the head, you can turn it, you can have it either way you want because the ears and the head are shaped slightly different. So if I show you on this black card now, so if you want him to be slimmer here at the chin side, you can do that. If you want to have him so he's chunkier at the chin side, which is what I did, I think, on this one, we'll check because I can tell by the way the ears are. Oh, I must have done it the other way. I must have done it that way. I think it works either way because you're gonna like add the bits to him as well. So we need anything that's white. So we need the beard, the trim for the hat, the moustache, and the eyebrows. Now, if you don't want to do all the smaller die pieces, you don't need to. You could draw the bits on with the eyes. You might want to give him googly eyes. It's entirely up to you. So what we'll do, we'll cut a little bit more of the white textured card, and we're going to pop these onto here, and we can cut those out in one go. And as we've said before, this actually looks like someone's hair. So in theory, if you cut the head out and then cut the hair out, well, we'll try it when we've cut it, and then you can see that would make it more amusing, I think, wouldn't it? Moustache is great, and the little eyebrows there. So again, we'll grab a bit of tape, and I'll just make sure I take my nose out of the die there, so that I don't think I quite cut through there. So I'm going to do that again. I think I probably took it out the machine too soon. So I'm going to just cut another little nose there before we do the eyebrows. So let's get that through there. So that's the nose. We can bring it back. It's definitely cut through now. So that was my fault that didn't go through there. But there's his little nose. What I am going to do now is, I'll leave the pieces on here, because if you've got a piece of black card or you've got a little tray you can put them in, you then can see what you've cut and you know that they're safe. Or put them back on your sheet, because it's surprising how they do go for a walk. Right, so we'll use that bit of tape now, I think, to go on there. That will hold those three in place while we pop that through. I'm dying to put this through the machine now and cut it and see what it will look like if we put that on his hair and the moustache. I think it's going to be really funny. And again, you could probably make like a granddad, or you know, maybe a rock star, or a, you know, someone famous maybe, like, but definitely maybe a granddad. I think it'd be quite funny. So let's see. And if you use your rubber mat and you emboss it, it will give you all the detailed effect here. Or you can do it if you want to with a pen or some ink, whatever you want to. But if we put that on his hair, which is quite, look at that, I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? And then if we did, like the moustache, oh my gosh, look at that. And then you could do this bit, I guess, as a little curly beard if you wanted to. Or you could do it as a, you know, the collar, or like a woolly jumper. Something. You might want to do these in brown and make it like a farmer. You might know a farmer who's got a nice big moustache and a good head of healthy hair. Obviously, we've got the nose here as well, so the nose goes on, and we do the eyes. I think that's quite amazing how we can do that and use that as something else. I think you're going to have lots of fun with that. And then if I bring the dicer in, you'll see here you've got the bauble. That is the bauble for the top of the hat. I'm not going to use that today. We're going to use the pom-pom. Yes, I think it's around somewhere. I think it's under there. Yes, I got some out earlier, but they started to blow away in the fan. So, oh, actually, look at that. See, I quite like that as well now. Just with a granddad with a moustache and that hair. Oh, my goodness. See all these things? It's amazing, isn't it? All these little variations that you can do. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to bring in, and I forgot to put these on my list, the Colorista pencils. As you know, they're my favourites. I love these pencils. What I'm going to do, I'm using the Perfect Portrait pencils. That's the collection, and this is pink eggshell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to colour him some little cheeks. You have got the die there to cut the cheeks, but I'm just going to colour them, so it just gives him a little bit of pink on there. So they don't stand out quite so much, but he still looks like he's a bit chilly. Yes, and then if you take your nose as well, with the same pencil, and just go around the edge, and what I'll do, I'll hold it down here with my nail. So you can just go around the edge like that, just a tiny bit. It'll just add a bit of definition to the nose, because when we put the nose on, obviously it's the same colour as the face. So this will just highlight it. It's a bit fiddly, but it does just make a difference when you put it on there. It's really subtle along the edge, and if you really want to do it a bit more, you can kind of just rub the pencil like that, and it will just turn it ever so slightly so that it gives us a bit of definition on there. Right, so we need to put that on once we've done the moustache and the beard. So let's glue the beard on this time. So now with the beard, you can just, let's get that little bit of dry glue off the end again there from the fan, drying it up. In fact, what I will do is I think I'll use my little glue this time, because I'm going to have to put the eyes and the eyebrows on. So this one is probably the one to use with the fine nib. There we go, that's better. So we just use a fine nib here. And I'm going to put a little bit on the bottom, just so that if it does sit at the bottom of the face, it will hold. And I'm going to lift this up now and pop it on like that. So just putting it right at the bottom. This is like the, not the snowman. Is it Father Christmas? But you know the snowman film, We're Walking in the Air. So there's isn't there one called the Snowman as well by the same? There is, isn't there? So yeah, so I think that's what it reminds me of, with the little beards. It also looks like, was it Grandad or Uncle Albert off Only Fools and Horses? I think it was. With Del Boy. Oh my goodness, he's so cute. And then let's pop the nose on, because as soon as we've cut it, we need to kind of get it on if we can. So you know what will happen? You'll lose it, it'll disappear. But you can just see that it does show just a bit with that pink on the edge. Okay, so what we need to do now, I'm going to pop those just to that side there. They're still taped on, so I'm not concerned about putting them back on there at the minute. We're going to get a little piece of the red, and I've got a little scrap of the red here. I'm going to cut his hat. And we've already cut the base, like the brim of the hat, the base section. So let's pop that there as well. In fact, I'll pop that back on there. And then let's put that through the folder as well. So we can put, we can put the hat on there. And then, there we go. So we've got the little hat there now. Okay, like that. So what we can do now, and I thought it was easier to actually do the, to do this first and then stick it on his head, because I didn't want it to come down, me do that, stick it on, and it would come down too low, and then we'd not be able to get his eyes on. So I'm going to stick this onto the hat first. And again, you could be using this for like gnome hats. You could be changing this Santa into like little Vikings. There's all kinds of things you can do with it really, but that is where the hat will go on his head up here. And then what we'll do, we'll grab our little pom-pom, because that'll be giving it time to dry. I've tucked it under there so it didn't blow away in the breeze from the fan. So let's just pop this on here so we don't get glue on that black piece. So again, a bit of tacky glue, it will hold that pom-pom. So if we pop it to one side for a minute and let that just, it's cute, isn't it? It's so cute. We'll just leave it there for a second to dry. And then what we need to do, we need to cut his eyes. We've got his eyebrows already done, so they're still tucked in this sheet here where we did the beard. So we need to do now just his little black eyes. So I'm just using a tiny bit. This is not textured card, this is just our black cardstock. And these are like the smallest eyes. So I'm going to pop these on here like this, and then that on there, and that can then go through the machine. That's the tiniest bit you'll cut today, I think. So what we'll do, just cut those out. And I do like the fact he's got the little, he looks like he's happy, you know, because his eyes are black and they're squinting. He does look like he's a happy little Santa. Yeah, smiling, happy, jolly Santa. So what I did with the first card, I actually did my eyes first. So I'm going to turn them over because I can feel which side is the wrong side and which side is the right side. I can feel that, because we've die cut it, I can feel where the you know, the edge is. Yeah, the rounded edge. So let's pop his eyes on there. Now if you've got one of those waxy pickup tools, picky uppy putty downy, yeah, that's a good name for that. That's Jeremy's just saying in my ear, that's what they call them, a picky up putty down tool. So we can pop that on there like that, and if you used your tacky glue, your wet glue, you've got a little bit of time to move it if it's not right. So let's turn that eye over, because the eyes are slightly wider at one side, so you can see me wrestling with it, but I've got it on my finger there now. So if I can get it into the glue like that, there we go. And then we can put it, if we want it a little bit lower. So cute, isn't it? We can pull them a little bit lower like that. Okay. So now we need to do his eyebrows. So we've got his eyebrows in here. No, in this one. What you can do as well, if I found it easier when I was doing I think I was doing the mouth on one of our snowmen dies recently. So what I did was I actually put my glue down. I don't know if it'll work with this. It should do. put a little bit of glue over there for his eyebrows, and I've gone a bit heavy with the glue there, but it'll dry clear, so it doesn't matter. Figure out which one goes where, and then you can like kind of hover over. If I do it like that and push that out, like that. See how that's gone on there? And then the same with the other one. So again, just hover over it, get yourself like comfortable. Don't worry if it doesn't go down there, but if you do that, you've not got the risk of it flipping over and then you end up putting it on with the wrong side facing. When you've die cut it, it's nice to have that rounded edge. So and there you can see now he is quite jolly. We can move that up a little bit like that. And then we can bring in his hat. So let me put my eyebrows and my eyes back on there so that I know they're safe. Because if I lose them, these belong to here. Mine are at my retro Christmas is at home, so I don't want to be losing the ones that are from here. But there was definitely a circle one missing there. That's why I used my other one. It'll probably turn up in a basket somewhere, won't it? So now we can put his hat on. So let's get his hat on there, on top of his head. And then what we'll do with him is we will put him on some pads and we'll stick him. If you want to do his hat a little bit like wonky, you can do that. That's fine. But what we'll do with him now, okay, so we are nearly there with this now. So what we're going to do, we're going to put him on the circle with some pads. So let's just grab, it's quite a fun card, quite a fun little card. Let me get the bigger ones, I think. Let's get these bigger ones because they are a bit quicker rather than the smaller ones. So we can do 2 of those. And you can glue it on flat if you want to. If this is something you're going to post, then you can still keep it all flat. Just don't put the bow on and don't put the bells on. Maybe don't put the pom-pom on so you can keep it flat. And then what we'll do is we'll pop him on there like that. So it's quite cute. And then we'll do a couple more of the pads. And what we can do with these is I'm going to put him kind of central on the ribbon. So I'm going to put a piece of one of the pads at that side and one of the pads at that side. If you want to obviously add your glue as well, then you can. Let's get that little backing off there, like that one. It does get hot in the studio and it does keep the backs on the pads. So what we can do is pop that there. Now also included in this die set, you've got the ho ho ho. So last little bit to do on here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you this singly, just because of the time we've got. This will cut out 3 separate ho ho ho's. Okay, so what I've done is I've cut them out, and I've cut this out 5 times. So I've cut this whole die out 5 times. And then what it's done, I've then got 15, I've got 15 pieces then. And what I've done is I've layered them up on top of each other so that they stand out a little bit more than if we stuck them on flat. And what I'll do, I'll pop these on. I'll pop one on and show you how we do that. Okay, so let's just drop that down. They don't want to come out, so I'll just lift them. There we go, that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. So what you can do now, and I'll bring in the original so you can see how I've done it, so that then you know how to do this. So basically, and if you've got like double-sided adhesive sheets, you can stick your card onto there and then cut these out and they'll already be sticky. If you've got your sticker maker, then you can do that as well. If you've not, you can just use your tacky glue. And what you do is you stick 3 of them together. So you stick all 3 of them together like that, and then they become a little bit more chunky. The more you stick together, the more raised they'll be and the more chunky they'll be. So we do that one, whoops, and then we do it again. So we've got all 3 on top of each other. Okay, and then what you can do, repeat that process another 4 times. And basically, you're using scraps. I mean, if you look how small these are, it's just, using minuscule amounts. So what we can do then is, and I've put 5 of these on, so I'm going to put this one here, and then I'll bring in the original card to show you just how I've spaced them, but that's how you would finish it. Let's just grab that. So what we'll do is we'll put this one here, and you can put them on whatever angle you want them to. If you use your tacky glue, they will hold in place quite nicely. But you can see how now we've got some depth, and I think that goes really well with the depth of this. Then if I bring in the original now, so that all I have to do on that now is some of the extra ho-ho-hos. So you can see here, we've got 3 on top of one another there, and here, and here, and here, and here. And that's how you would create that. I hope that some of you will repeat this, and I hope you'll definitely apply that technique to your embossing folders. But we'll hold that up there, and then you can see how that looks when it's finished. I think it's a little bit unusual, but again, it's got that nice retro feel, and it makes the retro collection look a little bit more funky. I'd like to say thank you for watching, and I hope you can join me soon on another lovely craft along. Bye for now.